Meet Sarah, a 16-year-old unmarried pregnant teenage girl. If only Sarah knew how to say no. Let's go and help Sarah from the beginning. 9 months ago, like any other teenager, Sarah loved to socialize and hang out with friends. Because of her interesting character, no doubt many became interested in Sarah. Some of them were sincere in becoming friends. And there were also those who wanted to take advantage of her. Most of them were boys, but there were also girls. Some of them seduced Sarah, beckoning her, and some were very frank with their intention. Everything is geared towards sexual activity, and Sarah began to become confused. Do you know the risks that Sarah might face if she is taken in with all these temptations? First, she could be admitted into a rehabilitation center. Second, the risk of pregnancy would be 4 times bigger. And third, she could also be exposed to HIV and will be at risk to other sexually transmitted diseases such as syphilis and gonorrhea. Sarah should refrain herself from giving in. Therefore, she needs to know about the 3 levels of risky behaviors that must be avoided, which are no risk, which is a solo act, such as fantasizing and masturbating where it does not pose any risk of HIV. Low risk act such as French kissing and masturbating each other. High risk act such as vaginal sex, anal, and oral. We all know that big things are generated from small things. If Sarah had known about all levels of risky behaviors, she will surely avoid them, even if it is a no-risk act, because it will only lead to a high-risk act, which is very risky, such as sexual activities outside of wedlock. According to various researches, the involvement of adolescents in sexual activity outside of wedlock in Malaysia is increasing year by year. Sarah should be aware of this, so she does not become part of the statistic of teenage pregnancy cases. Did you know that on average, there are 18,000 new cases of teenage pregnancies registered with the Ministry of Health facilities every year from 2011 to 2013? Yes, this is equal to the number of students in 18 schools. And it continues to grow year by year. Sarah does not have to repeat their mistake. Sarah now bears the knowledge of the risks, as well as all the risky behaviors. Sarah should have the courage to reject, resist, and insist to say no to risky acts. Meet Sarah, a 16-year-old girl responsible for all the actions that she chose. This message is brought to you by National Population and the Family Development Board, LPPKN, and the United Nations Population Fund, UNFPA. For inquiries, advice, and assistance, please contact 03-2693-7555 and the care line 15999 or visit our website www.lppkn.gov.my.
The Ministry of Women, Family and Community Development, through the National Population and Family Development Board, has developed the Malaysian Family Wellbeing Index 2016 or FWBI 2016 to measure the well-being of families in Malaysia. The main purpose of this index is to help family-related policymakers and program planners develop appropriate and holistic intervention programs according to each domain and indicator. The measurement of family well-being is done through the implementation of the Malaysian Family Well-being Index Study 2016. A total of 8,254 living quarters and 3,878 Malaysian citizens respondents were interviewed. 2,008 of the respondents were fathers and 1,870 were mothers of children aged between 3 and 24 years old. FWBI 2016 has 8 domains which consist of 23 indicators. Family Relationship Domain, Family Economy Domain, Family Health Domain, Family Safety Domain, Family and Community Engagement Domain, Family, Role of Religion and Spirituality Practices Domain, Housing and Environment Domain, Family and Communication Technology Domain. The FWBI 2016 score was divided into 3 levels, which are high 8 to 10, moderate 5 to 7, and low 0 to 4. For the overall FWBI 2016, Malaysia is at a moderate level with a score of 7.33 out of the total score of 10. From the 8 domains listed, the Family, Role of Religion and Spirituality Practices domain recorded the highest score of 8.04. It is followed by Family Safety domain 7.96, Family Relationship domain 7.90, Family and Community Engagement domain 7.84, Family Health domain 7.18, Family Economy domain 7.05, Family and Communication Technology domain 6.38, and Housing and Environment domain 6.24. Comparison of the FWBI 2016 score by state showed that Malacca has the highest score of 8.28. It is followed by states Perak 7.71, Johor 7.61, Terengganu 7.56, Selangor 7.33, Kedah 7.32, Kelantan 7.32, Penang 7.31, Federal Territory 7.15, Sabah 7.10, Sarawak 7.09, Perlis 6.97, Negeri Sembilan 6.78, and Pahang 6.72. Among the suggestions to improve the well-being of the family is to enhance the organization of programs such as programs to promote recycling practices as well as improve public amenities, especially in the rural areas. Programs regarding parents' knowledge and skills in monitoring the use of communication technologies among children. Economic development programs among low-income families. Program that empowers healthy lifestyle practices and physical activities among families. Programs on knowledge and social skills through strengthening emotional bonds as well as enhancing social support at community level. Improve parenting skills programs, especially in communication skills with children, either verbal or non-verbal. Programs in the form of educational campaigns and awareness of family safety at home. Spiritual programs through religious practices and beliefs at family and community level. For more information on FWBI 2016, please visit www.lppkn.gov.my.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to day 2 of our event. Today we will be having the regional workshop on research protocol on aging. Thank you for joining us. Some housekeeping announcements. We would like to remind everyone to remain muted for this opening session. We will actually be fully enabling the discussion session during the breakout groups later. So without further ado, I would like to invite Yang Berusaha, Mr. Hairil Fazli Muhammad Akhir, the Deputy Director General of Policy for the National Population and Family Development Board of Malaysia, to deliver a progress and status update of the ARNA initiative on behalf of the Director General of LPPKN. Dipersilakan, Mr. Hairil.
Assalamualaikum and very good morning to everyone. Yang berbahagia Profesor Datuk Dr. Tengku Aizan Hamid, Country Director for ARNA Project Malaysia, Professor Yasuhiko Saito, invited aging expert from Nihon University, Japan, and all the country directors and officials. Before we start the third regional workshop of the ASEAN-Wide Research Networking on Aging, or ARNA, allow me to brief on the progress and the status of this ARNA project. As you all already know, most of ASEAN countries are experiencing the aging population trend, thus sharing almost common issues and challenges of aged society throughout the region. Among the chief issues are formulating effective policies, allocating right resources, and developing impactful programs based on data. In-country research findings and best practices among ASEAN member states are not widely shared due to limited networking among researchers. In addition, due to lack of standardization in research protocols such as methodology, common definition, and terminology, it is rather difficult to do a cross-country comparison among ASEAN member states, hampering ASEAN countries to learn more from one another. Through this project, we propose the establishment of ASEAN-wide research networking on aging that will be useful to establish a common, cohesive, and sustainable ASEAN research agenda on aging by focusing on an array of set objectives. Next slide, please. Recalling the journey of the project, the kick-off started on March 2019. It began with the regional meeting of country directors and the first regional workshop for the establishment of ASEAN-wide research networking on aging from 19 to 31st of March 2019 in Putrajaya. The meeting was set to galvanize commitment in achieving the objective 1, to exchange knowledge, experiences, best practices on research pertaining to aging among member states. While we are anticipating for the second regional workshop, ASEAN member states through country directors are encouraged to organize in-country capacity building from May until September 2019. This is to meet the objective 2, to establish a network of ASEAN experts and researchers on aging, for example, in the discipline of gerontology, geriatric, and gerontechnology. To meet the objective, in-country capacity building were conducted among every ASEAN member states to gather all aging research, identifying priority research area, and list of local experts on aging. This is also done in preparation for the second regional meeting on October. The second regional workshop for the establishment of ASEAN-wide research networking on aging was commenced from 2 to 3 of October 2019 in Kuala Lumpur. The workshop aimed to meet Objective 3, which is to identify priority research areas on old age and aging in the Southeast ASEAN region. To meet the objective, research priority area deliberated in preparation to meeting Objective 4, which is to establish a standard research protocol on aging. However, due to the time constraint, the Objective 4 will need further deliberation, and all members agreed to organize another regional meeting in due time. On February 2020, Malaysia already submitted an annual interim report to JAIF as per required. Initially, the third workshop was planned in March 2020 to deliver the Objective 4, but due to COVID-19 pandemic, the workshop could not be proceeded as a result of lockdown restrictions that in place around the globe. The Secretariat has decided to organize today's third regional workshop research protocol on aging from 16 to 17 December 2020 through online platform. For information, the mission of Japan and JAIF were informed of the extension of this project beyond initial timeline agreed before. Today's workshop is to meet Objective 4, which is to develop a standardized protocol for documenting population aging indicator and major aging research in ASEAN for regional and country comparison. After today's workshop, the first draft of research protocols on aging will be harmonized, and it is expected to be completed and the launching by the first quarter of 2021. Okay, next slide. On the outcome of this project, next, to recap some of the achievement of the activities, the meeting of country directors has managed to gather the participation of 7 country directors and 9 country representatives from 7 ASEAN member countries, namely Cambodia, Indonesia, Laos, PDR, Malaysia, Myanmar, Thailand, and Vietnam. All countries share their policies and best practices pertaining to aged society. The meeting also decided that all data and indicators of aging population statistics will be collected and harmonized from official sources available. Next. For enlightenment on initiative and development on research on aging population, Prof. Asghar Zaidi, senior researcher from Social Gerontology, Seoul National University, Korea, shared his contribution to the development of well-being in later life index for the United Kingdom, while Prof. Komazawa from Healthcare and Long-Term Care Policy, Academy Research Institute for ASEAN and East Asia, or ERIA, shared his experience in establishing the Health and Demographic Surveillance System, HDSS. Next slide. Another outcome of the submission of the first deliverable consists of 1. Population aging statistic, and 2, aging-related policies, law and programs and services. Next slide. Beside that, a common platform, which is under the ASEAN-ARNA.wordpress.com, was set up to gather all the information on research and research activities happening around ASEAN member states. This platform is still a beta version, and as the project progresses, the platform will further develop and function as the main platform to gather all the information on research and research activities in ASEAN member states. The first regional workshop focused on demographic and policy development of aging. Each country presenters shared their population aging situation and major policies and programs for older persons. Prof. Asghar Zaidi, in his keynote, shared a comparative picture of population aging in ASEAN by highlighting that surveys, censuses, and administrative registers can provide timely, credible, and representative data that can be used in generating aging-related statistics to carry out applied research. The outcome can then be used to draw an evidence-based policy making. But first, each ASEAN country needs to evaluate what data they need to close the gap and enhance research capacity by learning from each other with the help of comparative research and collaboration. The second deliverable submission were on, first, documentation on research. Second, priority on research area. And third, list of experts on aging. The second workshop focused on research on aging in the participating ASEAN member states and showcased some of the major survey and studies on aging in the region. The workshop was participated by 6 country directors, 7 researchers, 7 self-funded participants from 7 ASEAN member countries, namely Cambodia, Indonesia, Laos PDR, Malaysia, Myanmar, Thailand, and Vietnam. The participant of second workshop deliberated on potential research topics and focus for comparative studies as well as issues of major concern to developing countries facing rapid population aging. To enlighten participants, Prof. Yasuhiko Saito from Nihon University, Japan, shared some examples of established aging research networks such as Center of Excellence in Population Aging Research or SEPA, which is Australian Research Council that has unique collaboration between academia, government and industry and committed to delivering solution to one of the major economic and social challenges of the 21st century. Other network mentioned by him is Global Aging Research Network, GARN, established by the International Association of Gerontology and Geriatrics, or IAGG. The GARN network aims to promote research on health issues related to aging in order to improve quality of life and well-being of all people around the world. He then explained about the differences between research network and research consortium in terms of governance and funding so that Malaysia as the host of this project may pursue for the sustainability of ARNA beyond 2021. The second regional workshop has produced a consensus of research priorities area. The result from the previous second regional workshop in October 2019 can be summarized into 3 main priority directions: older person and development, advancing health and well-being into old age, and also ensuring enabling and supportive environment. In the priority direction for older person and development, there are 4 major research priorities and 6 research areas. In the priority direction for advancing health and well-being into old age, we have 5 major research priorities and 6 research areas. And the last priority direction, which is for ensuring, enabling and supportive environments, we have other 4 major research priorities and 6 research areas. In total, during the last workshop, we managed to identify 13 major research priorities and 18 research areas for this ARNA project. On the way forward, following the upcoming success of the ARNA, it is hoped that the committee, together with all ASEAN member states, will look into the sustainability of this project through the establishment of permanent secretariat for ARNA, which will be overseeing a future research funding and collaboration and ultimately develop an ASEAN Aging Research Consortium. We would like to take this opportunity to thank Prof. Saito, who has been with us since the first workshop and very cooperative in sharing his knowledge and experiences, thus paved the way for the further direction and step in making ARNA possible. Thank you very much also for all participants, and we wish you all a fruitful workshop. Thank you again.
Terima kasih. Thank you, Mr. Hairil. Without further ado, I would like to invite Professor Dr. Yasuhiko Saito from Nihon University, Japan, to share with us the efforts in developing a comparative research proposal for cross-country study on aging among ASEAN member states.
So I'll just go into my presentation and I will share the slides. Okay. Yes. So, well, again, I should say that good morning to everyone. And my presentation is here is entitled that the Developing a Comparative Research Proposal for Cross-Country Study on Aging among ASEAN member states. And I always start from these numbers. Somehow, okay, all right. So what I want to say using these numbers is that the size of the population and the rate of population aging differ among the ASEAN countries. So if you look at these numbers, the total population, Indonesia has almost 273 million people, and it's huge. And then followed by the Philippines. On the other hand, that what is the smallest, like Brunei has only 43 of, I'm sorry, this is the chime for the school. So maybe I should mute this just. So it's going to happen again at 10:40, 9:40. And so please mute again. Anyway, the size of the population and the rate of population aging differ by member countries. So it's going to be probably difficult to have a really common survey questionnaire. But by 2050, all countries will have certain level of population aging or a certain number of aged population. So it's better to prepare for that kind of aging society or age society now, not the later. And all of you already saw, I think, that the proportion of age 60 and over changes from 2020 to 2050 like this. Like Singapore, they will have about 40% of the population will be more than 40% of the population is age 60 and above. And the smallest is even Philippines, it's 16%, and Lao PDR also almost 16%, and it's doubled. And also you have to see the size of the age population. Lao PDR has the lowest population aging, but proportion of age 60 and over, but it's increased, that the size will increase 3 times. So it's better to prepare now. And also we could see the other aspect of this population aging. So actually this is the reverse of the age dependency ratio, and this is the total dependency ratio, reverse. So it's easier to see the numbers or interpret the numbers. Like in 2020, for one person age 60 and over, to support, like in Cambodia, 8 working population, eight people who are working group. But by 2050, it's going to be reduced into half. And Singapore moving from 3.2 to 1.2, Thailand 3.3 to 1.5. So the burden, well, I shouldn't say the word burden, but the number of people who could support, well, theoretically, that the support will decrease. Although if we look at the age population, it's a big change, but total dependency ratio, or the opposite of total dependency ratio. Well, some of the countries are not too bad, like Cambodia, it's the same, the young and old. And I'm using age 60. Usually we use the 65 as the indicator, 64 as the indicator, but I'm using 60 here. And life expectancy, these are from UN World Population Prospect in 2019 version. And life expectancy between 2020 and 2025, the estimated, are these numbers. And even at age 60, most countries has about, well, more than 17 years to expected to live. Then, if the retirement happened at age 60, people who retired, they have to plan for another 17 years at least. But like in Singapore, it's 26 years. So how they can support themselves. So these are the kind of issue we need to think about. And another thing is this one, it's more economic indicators. And economic development, stage of economic development differ by country, member countries. And also the inequality in income distribution is also different. These are the data from World Bank Open Data, and one is Gini index. There are some variations in the Gini index. Philippines is the highest, 44.4, in the sense that kind of inequality in income is high in Philippines and lowest in Myanmar. And also the poverty headcount ratio to the total population. The lowest is Malaysia, 5.6. Well, some of the country, I couldn't get the figure, but the data shown in the World Bank Open Data, the Malaysia has the lowest poverty headcount ratio of 5.6. And Myanmar has a almost 25. So some differences in economic situation. But so I understand that it's difficult to make a priority on aging studies in all the ASEAN member states. But as I said, it's probably better to start preparing for the coming aging society. And I already shared this with you last year, that by J.P. Smith in 2012, that more importantly, that without a common data infrastructure among ASEAN countries, they would not learn from the successes and failures of other countries in their attempts to deal with population aging. So, well, we should start from, a little by little. And in that sense that this project is making a network or establishing a network is very good. And we should think that what we could do next. And I was told that we could use this, the project I'm doing as a potential model for data collection protocol or comparative studies among the ASEAN country member states. And I will just introduce that what I'm doing with this project. And I will introduce more on the harmonization and possible comparative study and what we should do. And the project I'm doing is an area project on longitudinal study of Aging and Health in ASEAN Countries. And baseline survey of this project can be seen as a model for cross-sectional survey. And this project, that the longitudinal study itself, can be a model for longitudinal survey in ASEAN countries. Whichever the country that wants to conduct surveys, aging surveys. But this project is kind of different, or although we have similarities, but differences also between area project and like HRS, and it's a sister survey. It's a health and retirement study, and so their study, when it started, it's focused on the retirement, but our project is after retirement, age 60 and above. So basically, most of the older adults, they are retired. Although still some proportion of the older adults, they are still working. But that's the differences. But we do find the similarities too. So we could compare the data we collect with the HRS and HRS sister surveys. And this area project on longitudinal study of aging and health in ASEAN countries, we started with the two countries, the longitudinal study of aging and health in the Philippines, and longitudinal study of aging and health in Vietnam. And well, it depends on the COVID-19 pandemic situation. We may go into the field or start another one, the longitudinal study of aging and health in Indonesia in coming years. We started kind of talking about the possibility of this longitudinal study in Indonesia. An aim of this project I'm doing is examine the well-being of older adults age 60 and over in two countries of ASEAN. And well, these slides are already shared with probably many of you participated last year in Kuala Lumpur. But I just go over this slide, what we have done. And we do have now more results, and I'll share with you. And I found that quite fascinating to just comparing two countries. And so far until last year, when I presented this slide, that I was more on focusing on each country. So I didn't see the really comparative part. But when I compared two data sets, there are so many interesting and fascinating things we could observe. So, well, I just go over what we are doing. And longitudinal study of aging and health in the Philippines, it's started in 2018. And this is a nationally representative sample of 60 and over. And this is not the household survey. In the Philippines, sample size of 5,985 persons, and selected by multi-stage stratified random sampling. And we oversampled those age 70 to 79 by factor of 2, and age 80 and over by factor of 3. This is because we want to keep this survey, longitudinal survey, for a certain period of time. So we want to make sure that we could do a detailed analysis for all the age group. And this is an in-person survey using a structured survey questionnaire by tablet. And we allowed the proxy respondent. And wave 2 was actually scheduled to be conducted in 2020 this year. Unfortunately, because of the COVID-19 situation, that we are not able to go into the field yet. But we are planning to go into the field sometime next year. So we should be able to see the longitudinal aspect of this survey. And the second survey that we will have an exit survey. It's a death, like information of death, or information of the cause of death by the verbal autopsy, and related information, and also care needs before sample person died. And also, this survey may be a first survey on aging after the COVID-19 pandemic. So we want to really include the question on the what was the effect of this COVID-19 pandemic. And if we can keep this same question over time, or second, third, fourth, I don't know how many, but then we could see the change or actual impact or effect of this pandemic on the older adults. And this is the baseline. Sorry, you could mute me. Or I'm sorry again that, but anyway, so this is a first baseline survey of the longitudinal study of aging and health in the Philippines, and it's already available on the web. And for the Vietnam, it's a longitudinal study of aging and health in Vietnam, LSAV. And so basically, survey design is exactly the same. Sample size a little different, but basically it's almost the same. So we have LSAP and we have LSAP. Two baseline surveys of the longitudinal study. And report will be coming very soon. It's delayed, but it will come, that aging and health in Vietnam very soon. And I should mention about questionnaires, and it's screened by the short portable mental state questionnaire first, SPMSQ, I'm sorry, I made a mistake. And after that, we have a household questionnaire, main questionnaire for older adults, anthropometric and performance measure questionnaire, and child questionnaire, caregiver or potential future caregiver questionnaire. So we have 5 questionnaires at the baseline. And the reason why we had these extra two, child and caregiver questionnaire, is to actually to start with, we wanted to make sure that we can follow older person or sample person as much as possible, as many as possible. So we wanted to have information of the child and or caregivers. If we have 2 sources of the information of a sample person, additional sample person, then I thought that we could follow them up pretty well. And household questionnaire include the family structure, living arrangement, information on surviving children's family, and also this questionnaire include the environmental factors, like electricity, availability of electricity, water, how they get the water, cooking fuel or toilet, type of toilet, and what the assets they have, bank account, and we recorded the GPS of the village or the location of the sample person. And in this way, we may be able to link this, the survey data with the location of hospital, the healthcare facilities, or like main road, and that kind of information we may be able to link in the future. Main questionnaire include the usual demographic statistic, attribute, and socioeconomic status, intergenerational exchange, social network, loneliness, and health behavior, chronic conditions, and many functional indicators. And we have mental health, and vision and hearing, fall, pain, dental health. This is very interesting variables. and healthcare utilization, income, and information technologies. Anthropometric and performance measures, we measured blood pressure and pulse, and height, weight, grip strength, hand grip strength, gait speed, peak flow. And we also measured the segmental appendicular muscle mass for the studying frailty. We have functional reach, and we have balance test. Adult child questionnaire. This is for the old person child diet to study and relationship with older persons and the intergenerational support, filial piety, and contact information. This contact information is very important. And caregiver or potential future caregiver questionnaire. And so working status, health status, family composition, attribute and beliefs, and kind of care providing. And so these are the questions we asked at the each individual sample person. So unique feature of this project is that, well, 2 or maybe 3 surveys use same survey design and questionnaires at the planning stage. And I think this is very important because we have a common set of questions. And so it's easy to compare. Although we have to be very careful that the basic questionnaire is developed in English, and we translate it into their own local languages. So sometimes we may not be assume that we are asking exactly the same question, but that's something we have to keep in our mind. And that applies to all the studies we are going to do in ASEAN countries, because languages are different. And we have to translate the questionnaire into their local languages. And question items used in the survey and are very similar to the face and the sign in Singapore. In Singapore, there are 2 longitudinal studies. And the questionnaire used in these surveys are very similar to the what we are doing here in the Philippines and Vietnam. And anthropometric measures were introduced in the social interview survey. This is very important factor too, aspect too. And questionnaire used in these surveys are developed based on surveys I conducted in Japan, and also HRS. We took some questions from HRS, like TICS. TICS is the assessing the cognitive functioning by telephone, but because we're using tablet, it's really fit to use this TICS from HRS. So I introduced that the comparative studies just comparing data from 2 surveys, baseline surveys. We already saw this statistics at the beginning of this presentation, but Philippines and Vietnam population size is about the same, and for 60 and above, Vietnam has a little bigger, and proportion of those age 60 and plus in 2020, Vietnam has already 20.3% compared to Philippines 8.6%. But 2050, well, even though Philippines become twice as big, Vietnam may have becoming a serious issue of aging. And at birth, the life expectancy at birth is higher in Vietnam, and at age 60, also higher in Vietnam. The point is here, it's a GDP per capita. It's Philippines has a higher, but then Gini index in the Philippines is also higher. So income inequality in the Philippines is bigger. So those aspects, I mean, whether these factors affecting the result I'm showing, but we really need to conduct more details analysis. But these are just showing the two data set. So characteristic of old person baseline data, we have about this quite similar distribution by sex and age group. So proportion-wise, this is the weighted and observed N. So both surveys have similar. And socio-demographic characteristics of old person at baseline. It's if you look at the proportion of those who are married, and Vietnam has a much higher proportion. Education-wise, it's similar. Working, it's more in the Philippines, and rural-urban residency is not that different. And this is something I was really surprised to see, the household that experienced the hunger in the last 3 months. And the Philippines, it's only 13.5% compared to Vietnam, 0.9%. It's less than 1%. Also, situation in the Philippines is much worse based on this baseline survey. And also self-assessed economic well-being between the Philippines and Vietnam. There are some differences. And those who answered that there is enough with money left over in Vietnam, 33% answered that way, compared to 4.6, only 4.6% in the Philippines. Although we really need to pay attention that the people, older adults in Vietnam, they really answered their situation, or they may be kind of reserved more, and Philippines is more expressive. So we may need to dig into that personal characteristics of the people in both countries. And self-rated health, again, that the Philippines people, they much more people, older adults in the Philippines, they said more that they're very healthy. 12% of females said they're very healthy compared to 0.7% of female older adults in Vietnam. And this is what I was really surprised to see, that the mean number of original teeth in the Philippines, only 11.5 for men and 8 for women. But in Vietnam, 23 for men and 20, almost 22 for females. And the number of functioning teeth also. This functioning teeth means upper and lower, and it's in the pair. And proportion of the no teeth, it's also huge difference. And by age group, in Vietnam, at age 80 and above, 16.1%, no, 16.1 teeth they have. That's many of them achieving this 80-20, 20 teeth by age 80, and that's surprising. Objective measure we had, the Philippines and Vietnam, we have BMI and hand grip strength. Well, actually, this hand grip strength results was really surprising. I thought that there is a huge difference, but there's no difference, almost exactly the same. So I really need to analyze this data set. Well, why I was so surprised was that the number of teeth, that is related to the muscle mass. Anyway, so these are the kind of result that really interesting to see. And without comparing two countries, we can't really see these differences. And we could identify what is the reason these differences exist. Functional health-wise, it's there's no big difference. And this is the loneliness questionnaires. And it's just interesting to compare two data sets. It's a baseline data set. So there are harmonizing effect, not just us, like world value surveys, they are conducting all over the world that using a similar questions, European Value Survey, General Social Survey, and SAGE. These are the effort made by the researchers who is interested in doing this kind of surveys. And NACDA, these are also I shared with you last time, so I just go through. But NACDA has data on aging. It's a National Archive of Computerized Data on Aging. IPAMS, they are making a huge effort on harmonizing data, and they are providing data set for the researchers to conduct the comparative studies, but not focused on aging. And this is the one that we may want to see as a model for developing this database for ASEAN countries, the Gateway to Global Aging Data. This is for HRS and sister surveys. They have concordance tables for variables in each survey, like HRS share for European countries, and what else? CROSA from Korea, J-Star from Japan, and there are a few, and so ELSA from England, so and HART from Thailand. I don't know whether Mars is already there, but there are concordance tables and for each set of the questions. And these, you could see these which variables are available in each survey. So HRS, Mars, MHAS, ELSA, SHARE, CROSS, J-Star, Claris, and Tilda, and Charles from China. So we could do a similar thing. Instead of the survey name of the survey, we could use that country name and what kind of variables are available. Comparative study, what we can do, that the one of the study published in Lancet using healthy life years in EU countries, because they compute the healthy life years every year based on a survey called SILK. They ask the same question, and they have same set of core question in all the surveys. That's why they could do this comparative study. Well, global burden of disease-based healthy life expectancy, WHO all member countries, 187 countries, they computed, and they showed that values, how it changed over time. And this is a study I was participated. So this is a study by the Japanese team and a friend from France, Sweden, Switzerland, and last one was Denmark. So 5 countries. And because we have a same set of common questionnaire and core variable and optional variables, and we set the base questionnaire in English, and all of us have translated. And we have here it's also non-participant form, participation form, and proxy form. We get all the information, whatever we could. And we have core variable, like CB is a core variable, and OV is the optional variables. Because of we plan this way, we have the few publications. One is the prevalence and correlates of falls. The data on falls in the older adults, well, extreme old, the centenarians we are studying. So this is published in the Journal of Gerontology, Medical Science. And this one in gerontology, it's a frailty and associated factors among centenaries in the five countries study. And last one is the BMJ Open. It's a use of healthcare services and assistive devices. So these are the studies we could conduct solely because we collected the same data set from 5 countries. I also participated in another project. It's focusing on the effect of religion. And we set this concordance table again, but it includes like information of the survey design. But if we are going to use the same protocol, then we just need to have a list of variables from each country. And this is another study. Well, this is a study based on the this project, religion project. And I also have a data set in Japan, and I compared Japan and the US because I use the same questions. And this one is available data from 2 countries we compared, biological risk factors. And these are the kind of thing we could do. What steps for the conduct ASEAN-wide comparative study? So first we have to set the common questions, the core, optional, and country-specific to be included in aging surveys among ASEAN countries. So once we set this core, well, I don't know whether we could do it, but I think we at least few very small number of questions as a core variable, and people who are in the position to conduct survey try to include these core questions in the aging surveys. And once we set the common question, then conduct aging survey in each country. After a certain period of time, I think we have to let them analyze by themselves. Then after that, aging survey data should be sent to designated institutions or researchers to harmonize all available survey data. This is what I did with the 5 group at the centenarian studies, and discuss common studies based on harmonized survey data among those who contributed data. So we make a list of studies we could do as a group as a whole. And after a certain period of time, again, and harmonized data should be made available to the public. But I prefer to promote researchers in the region and make data available to the researchers in the region first. Potential project proposal. One is whether we should propose to data collection for certain countries as part of the project, or ask funding for harmonizing data available to the project, or validation studies of a set of questions like batteries, like GDS or CSD, that kind of questions. We may need to do some validation studies. And so we may ask funding for the validation studies. And that's it. I may spend more than what I was assigned, but that's all I have. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Saito. Now we have come to our intermission or break session. All right. Thanks for everyone who are still with us today. Thanks, Professor Saito, for the presentation. Certainly, there's a lot for us to think about, or what to focus on for a comparative study in the region. So, as we have put in the program, what we will do at 10 o'clock is a breakout session into 5 groups. So from now, we will be having an intermission or a break. You will be assigned to your respective rooms via Zoom. There should be an invitation that will appear over the next 5 to 10 minutes. Meanwhile, we will play some multimedia slideshows So don't worry if it hasn't popped up yet. It will take us about 5 to 10 minutes to get everything sorted. If you felt that you are not in a room that you prefer to be, do bear with us. We are trying to make the distribution of the participants as evenly as possible. Some groups naturally have more participants. If you would like to switch your group, please let the moderator know via the chat function, and we will try and accommodate to your requests. But once the breakout session starts at 10, we do not encourage any further changes as the session will be on. So without further ado, I will pass the controls back to the vendor. We will play some multimedia slideshows, and before your screen, you should see invitations to join breakout sessions virtually. Thank you very much.